right.
And
So
guys,
I've
this is
only-
Jennifer Hayro, Sunset High School, college and career counselor and extraordinaire. So welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay, so this is hello everybody. Thank you for being here. This is the first time I have done this from a single computer screen. So I'm struggling a bit. Okay, and let's do play from the start. There, can everybody see my screen? Sweet. Okay, so tonight I'm going to talk about your high school transcripts or your students' high school transcripts. And what I would love for families to do is to go into parent view and find your student's transcript, because it probably will make more sense if you've got something that is more meaningful in front of you. But really what a transcript is a legal record of your students' academic achievements through their time in high school. It's kind of a roadmap in the beginning, and at the end of their journey in high school, I like to think of it as kind of a diary of everything that they have accomplished. So where to find your student's transcript? In parent view or student view, you can go to course history. And up at the top is a teeny tiny little blue button that says Unofficial Transcripts. On this page, you'll also see kind of an at-a-glance record of what your student has accomplished, which is in the green, what they're currently working on, and things to be done in the future in gray. You'll also get a screen or a quick shot of their GPA. And you'll use this for many things, just to kind of keep up on how the transcript looks at the end of each term, and for planning for courses in the future and college launch. So if you're unable or not inclined to look at your own student's transcript, this is kind of the full body of the transcript. And I like to think of it in 4 separate parts. And we'll take a look at each one of those more carefully. So the heading of the transcript has some just basic information. It has your student's name, their state ID, their school ID, the grade, birthday, phone number, and the address at the time of graduation. It will also have your student's graduation date, as well as the graduating school's information. Because I work at Sunset, my transcripts all come from Sunset. It'll show the high school address, the phone number of the high school, and your student's high school counselor. And that's pretty standard across the district. At the bottom of the transcript, this is going to be a little bit differently important depending on where your student goes to school and what kind of courses they're taking. But some things are fairly standard. Now, it's got a prefix legend, and I have ours weighted as D for weighted dual credit and I for weighted international baccalaureate, because those are the kind of classes that we offer that are weighted. Some schools will have, their transcripts will have an A for advanced placement, a W for other weighted courses, and I can't see what the other one is hiding under there. An important thing to note just for this year and for the next few years is this statement right here, that all Oregon schools were closed March 16th of 2020. And it talks about all students received a pass and then how the classes were the following year in CDL. So colleges and future employers can get a better sense of what was going on with that student's transcript and why it looked so different during that portion of time. I think what many parents and students that are interested in is the GPA summary, which you can see in parent view, but is at that bottom portion of the transcript. we show the high school unweighted cumulative GPA, so for the span of their time at the high school, and their weighted GPA, which is on a 5-point scale. So any weighted classes are graded with 5 points. A for 5, an A is a 5, B is a 4, C is a 3. There are a few other things of note. If your student is on a modified diploma, courses that have been modified will be indicated with an M. And if your student is taking a class with honors, that will be indicated by an H on the transcript. Now, this is kind of the body or the meat of this transcript where things kind of change as students add or drop classes. This is where grades are recorded, but there are some pretty specific pieces of information in this transcript bit. On each transcript, there's a legend for the subject, the course title, the mark, which is the same thing as a grade, and the credit amount attempted and the credit amount completed. So frequently, for our transcripts, it's mostly a 5.5/0.5. For career ed, it's 0.125/0.125. I'm not sure if there are any other amounts of credit that get awarded in the Beaverton School District. It also shows the high school that is awarding that credit. And our kids that take health careers, it shows a different high school heading for those grades because they're submitted by a different entity. It shows the classes taken, the grades earned, the credit earned, and this is where we talked about the little H indicator for honors. It would be the same thing with an M if a student is on a modified diploma. And also on the side, the I for IB would be an A for AP and any dual weighted classes. It also shows at the bottom of each term, the number of credits attempted, the number completed, and the GPA for that individual term. This, as a counselor, is what I am frequently looking at. I'm looking to see how a student is progressing in their graduation status. And in the subject area, these are all of the different areas that students in Beaverton are required to earn credit. Now, this line of letters, B stands for business, F is fine arts, WL is world language, applied arts, and applied technology. That is kind of a cluster of classes that are required, 3 credits worth over the 4 years. Then there's career education, which at Sunset is a little chunk every year. There's the PE required and PE choice, health, language arts, math, science, social studies, and electives. This next column shows the amount of credit required in each area for graduation, with a grand total of 24 credits required in those specific areas to graduate. The next column, this one completed, are the classes that your student has completed and earned credit in. So the amount of credit is the same across all Beaverton schools, 3 in the fine arts, world languages, or fine arts, world languages, and applied arts, half credit in career ed, 1 full credit in PE, the 2 different kinds, 1 full credit in health, 4 credits of language arts, which our kids take it every year, 3 credits of math, although we like to say 4, 3 credits of science, 3 credits of social studies, and electives. Electives are a little tricky, at least at Sunset, because there's no place in the planning guide that says elective classes, these are your choices. What's important to note is that every credit a student earns beyond the required credit becomes an elective credit. So your student's 4th year of math, that last credit becomes elective credit. The same thing with science, PE, anything. Once you get beyond your required credits, those automatically roll into elective credits. And WIP, what is this WIP? This is work in progress. These are those classes that your student is currently working towards to earn credit. And I can't see, well, let's change that. Oh, there we go. And then you have the needed credit. So I know at Sunset, this career education kind of lingers out there and it doesn't show it as work in progress because our students complete that work independently outside of a credited class. So that's a reason that kind of just dangles out there as needed. So this transcript is from a junior. You can see that they're working on 6 full credits and their final year of high school, it appears as though they have very little credits required, which is true. We very highly encourage that students continue to take their full 6 or 7 credits, as this is the last time that education is completely free. The last bit of the graduation requirements are the graduation test history. Beaverton currently requires 3 tests: reading, writing, and math. Typically, these tests are passed by taking either the PSAT, the SAT, or the ACT that is offered to every 11th grader in the Beaverton School District. For students that don't pass it through one of those national tests, they can choose to take the optional state testing or do it through a portfolio. In my 10, 15, 20 years of counseling, I have never had a student that didn't graduate due to not passing an essential skills test. That is something that we make sure happens for our students. And are there any questions? I would be happy to answer anything that is in the chat. Anything? If you don't have any questions, you are free to take a break and get something to, a glass of water or something to drink before the main event begins at 6 o'clock. But I will hang out here and answer any questions that people may have.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll hang too.
Okay. What are colleges looking for in transcripts? First thing that they're going to look for is the GPA. The second thing that they're going to look for is, does that student meet the requirements of that college? And happily, Beaverton meets the vast majority of requirements for universities in the state of Oregon, with an exception that I know of currently. Oregon Institute of Technology requires 4 years of math. If a student doesn't meet that requirement of 4 years and 4 credits of math, they won't be admitted. Another piece that we don't require, but California schools do, and I think it's important for parents to know, is a student needs to have a full year of an art class, whether it's band or choir, graphic design, art 1 and 2, they need to have a full year, 1 full credit of an art class. So that's what colleges are looking for. And I would say that I know people think that they're looking for a lot of AP classes and IB classes. That is very true for highly selective schools. For most state schools, it is less important. And that final, most important piece, most sacred piece of your students' transcript, as far as colleges are concerned, is the GPA. Oh, there is no SAT, ACT score in the transcript, and I'm going to go back to the college piece. Many schools are remaining test optional and will be test optional indefinitely. There's not a college in Oregon that requires any kind of college test for entrance. Yes. So why do we have two? Because in theory, weighted classes are more difficult. They should be at the college level and potentially can have college credit attached to them. So unweighted grades are just the standard 4-point scale, where an A is a 4, a B, a C, and a D. A weighted class gives 5 points. Get that thumb up there. A weighted class gives 5 points instead of the 4. They still use it in the 4-point scale. So when you hear a student has a 4.26 GPA, that is because they've taken a number of weighted classes and bumped that weighted GPA up. Their unweighted GPA still remains a 4.0. Why have the two? I think it just differentiates between those more difficult college level classes, kind of at a glance. The question is, it is a 3.5 GPA average in a student's class round up to a 4 when it's counted in GPA. I think that depends entirely upon the teacher and the class. And honestly, I don't think teachers, that 4 in a class doesn't necessarily mean a 4 in the final grade. That is a classroom teacher decision and evaluation, and the point scales that buildings use can be different, whether they're IP or IB, AP or IB. Letter grades. So in the world of high school graduation versus college entrance, an old saying is D is for diploma, because a D will count towards a student's graduation. They earn credit for that class. It is not counted by colleges. When a college is reviewing a transcript, when they see a D, it's like that class never happened. The student doesn't get credit for it. So let's say a student got a D freshman year in math. They just were struggling, and then they got their feet under them and they did better. If they only took those 3 years of maths, they'd be missing 0.5 of a math credit. So they would need to continue to earn another credit in math to be college admissible. So D is for diploma, C's and above are for college. Liz asks about, since college testing isn't required, do the teacher recommendations and counselor letters count for more? I think that teacher and counselor letters are somewhat important. I think the most important thing that we hear over and over again from admissions counselors is it is students' work, then their courses, but their personal essays are really the most important thing that's going to grab their attention and reel them in to be interested in a student.
Nora had a question about when are the graduation tests that are required to graduate taken? I think that was the question. There are no, currently there's no tests that are required for graduation. In the past, there was tests such as the OAKS, the SBAC, and now the OSAS, I think they call it. And that's coming back for the grad year of 2025 is the plan. So anyone who's currently a freshman may have to meet the grad requirements in essential skills is what it's called. So it's just a test that's that you have to meet standards at a certain level for reading, writing, and math. Currently,
Right.
unless you have a freshman, then it's not required. So I hope that answers your question, but usually those tests are given in the springtime.
Well, and it depends, because if a student takes a PSAT test, the district will look at those scores, and those scores can be used to pass a test. So, but every 11th grader takes a test in the spring, and those are typically the scores that we use, unless a student has taken the PSAT or the SAT or some other nationally normed test elsewhere.
Great questions. Keep them coming. Now's a really good chance to ask some of these questions about college and planning and transcripts. And one thing I'll say is a lot of kids, you know, there's a big variety in types of students at schools. You know, I've worked in a lot of schools, and some kids will just, you know, and their senior year do the bare minimum because they're like, I only need 24 credits to graduate. I really only need these 2 classes this year. So don't let your children lead you to believe that, you know, that they only need to take 2 classes their senior year, because I try to remind kids this is a free education. There's going to be no other time in your life where you're going to get a free education. So now's the time, especially if you're in and have an opportunity to take a higher level class that's a college level class that can cover the, you know, that can take away one of the classes you have to take in college. That saves you even more money. So fill your schedule as much as you can. And if you do want to have an early release, get a job, do a sport, do a club, all those things are really going to help that college application.
The other horn I'm going to toot is early college high school, which has the opportunity called actually Opportunity Knocks for college level classes taught at PCC. Any class that a kid wants to take, if it's not part of the curriculum at that student's home school, they can take it at PCC. Beaverton pays for tuition. For students that are free and reduced lunch, they will receive a bus pass, and we will also pay for any books that they might have. So that is also another way to get some weighted grades, some additional experience, and college level classes on your high school transcript. So we've got about 6 more minutes. Anybody? Anybody?
So Jennifer, maybe now that you're the host, maybe you can make me the host or the co-host as well, and I can get us ready to go with someone else. Oh, there is another question. And that's how does the student pick the PCC class by themselves or through the high school? That's a really good question. Jennifer, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So a student kind of has a class in mind that they'd like to do, and they need to apply for the Opportunity Knocks early enough before the term starts. So I have had kids that take Writing 122. I have had kids that take some programming classes, jewelry making classes, anything they want. They just need to talk to their high school counselor. The high school counselor will complete a form for Opportunity Knocks. The student completes a form and they register through PCC. So they have to sign up to be admitted to PCC, which is about, I don't know, a 15-20 minute process. And then you wait for your PCC ID number, and then they can get on board and register for classes. So it's kind of a 2-part thing.
And just so you know, it would be awesome if the kids could do these classes in the summer and kind of add to everything, but they're not allowed in the summer. So just a heads up about that. So,
and it's for 11th graders and 12th graders.
Yeah. It looks like one of our next speakers showed up. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just to show everybody who's arriving. Well, by the way, thank you, Jennifer. That was, I loved your slideshow. It was very well done. Super cute.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen, and I've got this, I think, is the one I want to share with y'all. Can you guys see this? Anybody? No? Okay. I don't know what's going on there. Let's try this again. Okay. Either way, Shaller, would you like me to make you the host?
Yes, that would be great. And I'll
Okay.
present on my end. Both Lisa and Anna Marie, I'll have the presentation up.
Okay, so guests, I'm going to be turning it over to Shaller. She is from University of Nevada, Reno. And what is your title there?
I'm a regional admissions counselor, and
Okay.
Lisa is actually going to formally start us off. So I know she's going to kick it off and do her full thing. So I'm actually going to hand it over to Lisa, but I will have the PowerPoint on my computer.
Okay, perfect. So we have Lisa Hansen from Seton Hall University, and then we have Anne Marie Fahmy from Muhlenberg College. So I will, yeah, Shaller, I'll let you be the host here. Sorry.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah. There we go. So first I'm going to make you co-host and see if that works. If not, I'll just make you host.
Okay, let me test it out.
Okay. Yep, looks like.
See my screen? It's all good?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Okay, so let's give everybody maybe another minute or two. It is only 5:58, and you know, this was advertised to begin at 6 p.m. So we had a transcript session before this, and so if there's any other questions about transcripts and college stuff, there will be time after this session for questions. I'm assuming that our presenters right now, Lisa and Shaller will be, and Anne Marie will be, you know, I don't think they'll probably take 59 minutes. I'm sure there'll be time at the end for you guys to be able to ask questions. So we'll hold off on the questions for them, but if there's any last questions about transcripts or college acceptance and what classes kids should take, now's your chance. Okay. Okay, we have 59 participants, pretty exciting. And it keeps going up. So we'll just, it's 6 o'clock now. We'll go maybe another 30 seconds, 2 minutes. So thanks everybody for your patience. And by the way, I don't know if I introduced myself. My name is Tanya Stremme. I am the College and Career Center counselor at Westview High School. Hello. I was a caseload counselor for 23 years, actually 22, because this is my 23rd year, but for 22 years in the Hillsborough and Beaverton School District.
Great, thanks, Tanya. Nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks. Nice to meet you too. Okay, guys, it's kind of leveled off at 60 people and it is 6 p.m. So I'll let you take the floor.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. And thanks everybody for patiently waiting for me to arrive. I am actually at the PNACAC conference in Montana. So I was rushing over here to hop on and appreciate your patience. But my name is Lisa Hansen, and I represent Seton Hall University in South Orange, New Jersey. I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I know we're going to get to a little snippet of each of our universities in a second. So for now, I'll turn it over to Shaller to introduce herself.
And hi, everyone. My name is Shaller. I am a regional admissions counselor for the University of Nevada, Reno. All of us, we are based regionally. So I think for the most part, we're all in California. So I'm in Northern California. I know Lisa is as well. And I'll hand on over to Anna Marie to introduce herself.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Marie Fahmy, and I am with Muhlenberg College, which is in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I am based in Southern California, and I cover all of our the West Coast for recruitment. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for the West Coast at Muhlenberg.
All right, so to get us started, we're going to take you through the senior timeline, looking forward. What are we going to talk about this evening? And basically, these are some of the topics we're going to go over with you, just so that you can really get a head start thinking about all of these things going into summer. We know that there's a lot coming up for you right now with the summertime ahead, but it's a really good thing to keep on your radar. So hopefully this will be very helpful for you in structuring how you want to go forward. So we're going to talk about all these different timelines that you might want to keep track of going forward into the late summer and early fall. Your senior year gets really busy, as you know. It passes really quickly. So we're going to try to help you with that in planning your schedule ahead. So late fall and winter, and then December to April. And then, of course, the exciting time when you're getting all of your decisions and then making your decisions. So here's what we're going to cover for this evening. And then we're going to cover as many questions as we can get to. So next slide, I think, which is ARROW. So we are all part of an organization called ARROW. That's our acronym. It stands for the Association for Regional Representatives of Oregon and Washington. So while many of our ARROW admissions officers are based in either Washington or Oregon, as Shaylor mentioned, we are all based in California. So luckily we get to be part of ARROW as well. We all represent universities that are located outside of the Pacific Northwest. So really liking to bring other opportunities, available for you, or open your eyes to other opportunities that you might not always think of that are in other states, maybe on the East Coast, in Anna Marie and my case. So just that's the part of the organization. We do a lot of different events like this for you. And we do have a website, so you can always look at our website and find out who's part of ARROW, and maybe there's some interesting universities that you might want to check out that you never even thought of before.
And Lisa,
Oh.
if you could make sure your volume's all the way up, that would be great. Someone had just mentioned you seemed a little quiet.
Okay, is that better?
It's fine. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's good.
Okay. All right, so so here's what we're going to start off with. So when you get to this point in your decision-making process, or you're just going forward into this whole college search process, right? So what you're going to be doing going forward in the summer and the fall, forming that college list. So just so you know, there are a lot of universities and colleges to choose from, and there are over 2,300 four-year colleges and universities alone in the U.S., not to mention options that are outside of the U.S., right? So there's a lot there as well. And then you want to pay attention to the accreditation. So most universities that you find that you might be wanting to apply to or think about will have accreditation through their particular regional accreditation body. So just make sure that that university or college is accredited, because that does count towards college credits going forward, and what you might need to be aware of if you ever want to go on to graduate school or a professional degree program. And of course, we're always going to say this, and your counselors as well, start early, okay? So even though many of you might be going into your senior year, if you haven't started this already, do so the earlier the better. It just kind of gives you a head start. And the earlier, it's kind of like me with a presentation or with a research paper. It's sometimes you drag your feet, and the earlier you get started, then you come up with new ideas and new information that you might want to put on your college list. So earlier you start, the better. Let's just say that. And then just relax. It can be a really fun process. You might, again, find universities and colleges that are recommended to you or that pop up. Your counselors know you well, so they might be able to recommend certain universities that fit the area you're looking to study or your personality or those kinds of things. So just have fun with the process. And then what kinds of, it kind of leads into this next slide. What kind of college fits you best? So, this is a lot of information for you, public or private. You might have an idea already, maybe an older brother or sister or cousin, or, one of your parents went to a public school, maybe they went to a private school. You might have an idea of those. My recommendation, and I think all of ours as admissions officers and counselors, would be to visit as many as you can, even ones in your backyard. It really kind of gives you kind of a picture or a vibe of what a university looks like at the public level versus a private level. Generally speaking, public schools are going to be on a little bit larger size than a private, not all the time. Some of the public schools are smaller in size too. But sometimes, these are things you want to consider. And then, of course, where do you want to live? Do you want to live right in your backyard? You love the area you grew up in, or are you ready for adventure? Well, we're hoping on the East Coast you're thinking about adventure too. But you might want to try a new area that you never even thought would fit you. So think about that, the living environment, what kinds of opportunities are available in those areas. And then, of course, what fields of interest are fields of study are of interest to you? So maybe you're interested in the sciences, maybe you're interested in music, maybe performing arts, whatever it could be. These are kinds of things you want to look into too. Maybe you don't even know and you're an open slate and you just don't know yet, and that is perfectly okay too. So don't feel like you have to have it all figured out just yet. You have a lot of time, so just sit back and try to, take stock of what you really like. And then, of course, what size. So I mentioned public versus private, but sometimes students like to be in a very small university, very similar to a private school or a very small public school, or they might look at a bigger school, like a big state school, because of the sports are amazing and the opportunities for clubs and organizations are amazing. Um, those kinds of things, or just they like a lot of people, so they kind of like to go to a bigger environment. So those are things to keep track of as you're visiting those universities. And then what type of student profile is best for you? So this is going to take into account many different elements. So it can take into account your academic profile, the kind of culture you're looking for, the kinds of activities you're looking for. All those kinds of things are going to come up on your radar as you're looking to kind of find the best fit for you. And then any other factors that are important to you that maybe you don't even realize just yet. And of course, lastly, one of the most important factors, of course, is what is affordable for you. So at the end of the day, you might want to go to your dream school, you might get into your dream school, and you do also need to take into account whether or not it's affordable, whether or not it's going to be, a really good school for you in financial terms. So those are all things to consider. And again, the more you can visit all these different universities to find out these answers, that's going to really help you. All right, and there are some resources for you already. So there are a lot of things you can do going forward to kind of figure out what might be a best match for you. This can include college fairs, and thankfully we are going to be having the NACAC fair again in Seattle this year. We're very excited about that as admissions officers, I can tell you that. PNACAC regional fairs, I believe they're going to have one in Portland, but there are regional fairs associated with the PNACAC group as well, which is the Pacific Northwest subregion of the NACAC. And then, of course, different websites that you can visit. So this is a list of various websites, Big Future, My College Options, a Scholar Matcher, Princeton Review, College Scorecard. So all of these and many others are out there. And of course, you can always visit our websites. We have a lot of resources available on the websites for all universities where you can take a virtual tour. You can participate in virtual presentations, things of that nature too. But mostly, which I'm going to really encourage you to do over and over again, reach out to your school counselor as well as any university admissions representative. So your school counselor or whatever counselor you might be working with is going to be extremely helpful to you in this process because they have a lot of information and they know you. And so they're going to be able to tell you, this school has these programs, this school has those programs, I can see your personality fitting in here or there. So they usually have quite a bit of experience and they know what they're talking about. So definitely don't be shy and reach out to that school counselor that you're working with. I think.
All right. I think it's my turn. Thank you, Lisa. All right, so now we're going to get into the timeline as you move through your senior year. And so particularly starting August through September. And so this first slide is about testing. And it's not the first slide because we think testing is the most important part of the process. I think as we continue to go through this presentation, you'll learn more about holistic admissions review. Hopefully you get a sense that there's so much more than just the SAT or the ACT that goes into how your file is reviewed. But it is important to talk about testing now because of just the timing of when you can take the test. But first and foremost, I think you all are applying to college at a really exciting time where, years prior, students didn't have these many options for test optional colleges. So the door has just been completely open for you all applying to college now. So many colleges are now permanently test optional, or at least test optional maybe for 1 more year, 2 more years, or still kind of figuring it out. And I think there are, so there's test optional and then there's test free. So test optional usually means that the school, you can submit testing or also you don't have to. So that's what test optional means. Test free is you could not submit your testing even if you wanted to. The school just will not look at testing whether you have it or not. And then there are some more gray areas, right? So maybe there's a school that's test optional, but for certain programs or maybe certain scholarships, you have to submit testing. So for example, where I work at Muhlenberg, we have been test optional since 1996, so for a very long time. But if you're applying to Muhlenberg via a partnership that we have with UPenn Dental, you do have to submit the SAT or ACT. So whenever I talk about being test optional at Muhlenberg, I always say, well, do you want to be a dentist? Because if so, let me talk about this program. Otherwise, 99% of our applicants don't have to worry about testing. So just keep that in mind that there are some sort of different levels and there's a spectrum of what sort of test optional means. And then this QR code can take you to something called fairtest.org, which I believe is just a full list of all the colleges that are test optional with little asterisks next to them, like if they're test optional completely or for certain programs. So if you're like, oh my God, how do I know? Just go there and you'll see the complete list of schools. And then the next question, I think, as I said at first, it is very exciting that you're applying to college in this time where just so many more doors are open to you. But at the same time, you may be thinking, well, that makes it more complicated because do I or don't I sort of take the test or submit testing? So you do sort of have to ask yourself those questions. If you want to take the test, keep in mind, there's the SAT and the ACT. Keep look at dates and when you should take that. We recommend scheduling an exam no later than October. A lot of fall deadlines will come sort of after October 15th and afterwards. And then also once you have your scores, you may ask yourself, do I want to retake the test? I think there's data that shows that I think after 3 times, scores tend not to change. So just keep in mind too, sort of it is not uncommon for a student to take the test twice, but I think, a lot of students will take the test once or again, not at all. And lastly, even if you do have your test scores, you might ask yourself, well, I have them, should I submit them for this school? And you can ask colleges that and be, direct and transparent, and they should be transparent back. A general rule of thumb I'll say is each school will have a middle 50%, so like a range of what the testing is. And so keep in mind, maybe if you fall outside of that range, you do want to consider, is it actually better for me if I don't submit this lower test score? So once you have your scores, if you decide to take the test, think about too sort of that piece of test applying to school that's test optional. Okay, next slide. Okay, like Lisa said, visiting colleges is so important. If I didn't visit colleges in the spring of my senior year, I would have ended up somewhere that I would not have been happy at. The school that I thought I was going to go to, I visited and I was like, I think I'm going to be miserable here. It just wasn't what I thought. It was way too big. The school was spread out over the city. I wanted a more like small residential feel. I didn't know I wanted that until I went to actually visit a school. So keep that in mind. Even if you like, I'm not going to that school, it's too close to home, or I don't want to go, just visit, because you'll be surprised at how much you learn when you physically are at a school. You may find, oh, okay, I do kind of like this vibe of smaller or bigger, or maybe you like the dorms or the way that the college is laid out. You may find that you pay attention to architecture. You're like, I like the Harry Potter feel of this dining hall, or this school is too modern. There's lots of glass buildings. Just keep in mind too, their colleges look and feel so many different ways, and you won't know that until you get there. If you're planning the summer vacation this year, I would be, Google what schools are within an hour or 2 hour drive of maybe where you're going this summer. You'd be surprised, probably anywhere that you may be, there's a college within an hour or 2 hour drive. And so just a way to sort of kind of tackle 2 things at once. But also keep in mind too, that there are resources. If you don't have, financially visiting colleges is expensive. There are a lot of colleges that have what are called fly-in programs. And so maybe you can apply to be part of this fly-in program in the fall, and they'll fund your transportation out to visit visit that school. So a lot of those, ask your counselor about fly-in programs, but a lot of those will open up for students in the summer, typically for students who are either first generation college students or from an underrepresented background. And then the thing I'll say about this visiting colleges is a lot of schools, especially in the fall, like around Indigenous Peoples Day or Veterans Day, will have open houses. So that's a really good option if you want to visit a school and learn as much as possible. Usually at an open house is going to be a current student panel. There may be alumni or professors, current students you can have lunch with. There are tours. You may be seeing inside of a residence hall. A lot that you can do. That's a pro of a large open house. I would say a con is that you're not visiting the school on a typical college day. So if you want to know what it's like to visit a school just on what a typical day at that school is like, then maybe I'd recommend doing a typical day visit, like just going to the school and doing an info session or a tour, as opposed to a large open house. But both have, their pros and cons. Definitely check in mind if you need to register for a visit ahead of time, whether that's the tour info session. Sometimes those are drop-in, but if you do want to interview with a college, a lot of schools will have virtual or in-person interviews. Those most likely you're going to need to have an appointment for. And then pay attention to school processes and deadlines to request transcripts and other documents. This is where your counselor is going to come really in handy in terms of when you need to request things and how much time you need to give your school to send these documents and when the college needs them by. Make an appointment with your counselor to make sure you're on the right track, and pay attention to what your counselor is telling you. If there's an event happening in the College and Career Center that you should attend, like this virtual event, so just make sure that you are paying attention to the appropriate information, so that way you are doing your best job to apply to college. Okay, writing essays. So there are colleges that will require an essay. There are colleges that don't. If you're applying to a school on the Common App, has, 500 colleges are on the Common App. I always feel like I forget that number. It's a large amount. There's also the Coalition App. Different states or colleges may have their own applications as well. So, generally speaking, if you're going to be writing a personal statement as part of your college application, you want to keep track of those topics or what exactly you have to write. A personal statement for example, for the Common App is about 650 words. So that's, a few paragraphs. There may be some other shorter essays, like 100 to 200 words, that are in addition to that personal statement. Some colleges may ask, why are you interested in applying to our school? Some colleges ask really wonky prompts. I remember one that was like, your autobiography is 600 pages, submit page 496. And you're like, what? It really abstract. So maybe you like that. I think you can also learn about the vibe of a school by figuring out sort of what questions they're asking you in the application, right? And then identify people who can write letters of recommendation for you. So if you're applying to a college, some colleges will not require letters of rec. Some colleges will require 2 or 1. If a college does require letters of recommendation, usually they want them from academic teachers and also maybe your counselor as well. And the idea behind the counselor letter of recommendation is so that way your counselor can sort of provide information about you and the context of your school. Not everybody knows their counselor. Your teacher is someone who knows you in the classroom and can speak to sort of your achievements and your performance and your personality in the classroom. So I think that's helpful is to give you a resume or just some sort of like bullet point list to your teachers for, here's some achievements and some things that I'm interested in or things I've been involved in, just to kind of jog the memory of things that they can talk about in your letter of recommendation. And then also make sure you give your recommenders time and then send a thank you note afterwards. I think that's really nice. And maybe not everyone does it. So it's good to do that and think for the time that it takes to write the letter. One thing I'll say too about that is keep in mind that there are, you want to make sure that you keep on top of when your teachers, for example, need to submit your letter of recommendation. But if it's, October 15th and the letter isn't due until November 15th, don't ask them, you haven't submitted it yet. What happened? They still have a month. So definitely you want to be on top of it, but also give people some grace and breathing room to know that they're going to do that for you, that they're in your court in terms of this process as well. All right. I think I have. Like I said, the college essay, so why is it important? It really helps us get to know you beyond just things like numbers, grades, test scores. This is something that you have total control over, right? Your grades are, things that happened in the past, other sorts of things that are part of your application, you don't have total control over, but your essay, you get to write and you get to focus on. And this is where we really get to learn about you as a person, your story, what interests you, what fascinates you, or what are you going to bring to the college, and what kind of person are you? And so it really helps us get a sense. It really makes the process personal, and it really helps me get to know what you're like as a person, because we're not just admitting students, we're admitting roommates, friends. So the personal essay really makes your application come to life. And I think I have a little bit more about the essay on the next slide that I'll talk about. Yes. Okay. So tips to remember when you're writing your essay. And there are a lot of resources online, and I'm sure other presentations that your school will do as you get into the summer and senior year about writing the essay. But here are some tips I'll share now. Be mindful of formatting, address the prompt, if any, make sure you actually answer the question that is posed. Be engaging, be passionate, right? I want to read about something that you're interested in. And be direct, right? So I think it's really important to not include so much fluff in your essay. I think oftentimes when you're writing for history or English class or even in a science lab, there's a lot of context that you give, right? You don't need to do as much of that in a personal statement. So I'll give you an example. Reading an essay about your experience at summer camp. I don't need a paragraph about how green the grass was or the log cabins or just the look and the feel of the nature of the camp. That's not important. If I'm reading the John Steinbeck novel, yeah, probably, I'm being entertained, but I don't need that in your essay. I want to know, why are you writing about this? Why did you choose this topic? What am I going to learn about? Is it the community at camp that really shaped who you are as a person? Is it the fact that you feel like you can be yourself there, as opposed to maybe you don't feel that way at home or at school? Why are you telling me this? And that's what I want to know about. So don't be afraid to not include that flowery language, just really get to the point, because this is what we want to get to know you in this process. And same thing if you're writing about somebody else, maybe the impact your grandma had on you. Again, you're writing about you, not your grandma. So make sure it's an essay about you. And I always have someone proofread your essay and ask them, what do you think my essay is about? Or what did you take from this? And if it's opposite from what you thought, well, then you got your answer and you got to rewrite it. And last thing I'll say, because I know we're probably coming at time for this, is don't be afraid to delete stuff once you're writing your essay. I find that when I'm helping students write their essay, oftentimes if it's like, let's say 5 paragraphs, paragraph 3 is actually their beginning, and the first 2 paragraphs we just throw out and put in a delete or throw in another Word document. So don't be afraid as you're writing. Sometimes you just have to do the word vomit and get stuff out on paper, and then tighten it up later. So, all right, I think that's the end of my time.
Yes, so now we're going to more formally talk about the timeline of the application process. So integrating all of the topics and relevant information that Anna Marie and Lisa had provided for you, and actually putting it like on the calendar. So maybe you could write it down or know when you should be doing this or when you should be preparing for this. And as you see things on the screen, you don't have to do everything. So if we're looking here, applying to schools, if you're not a spreadsheet person, that's okay. If you have another way of keeping track of the schools you're interested in, do what works best for you. If you like to write it down physically, if you need to talk it out with someone, if you do create a spreadsheet, that's excellent. If you just know there's one school you want to apply to, ultimately, the decision is going to be up to you and your family what that process is going to look like individually. But overall, this process is going to be important to recognize for a timeline and for dates and deadlines. So as we've already talked about, reaching out to us, reaching out to your high school counselor is very important and pertinent very early on. We can help you determine, you know what, if you want to meet maybe an early action deadline, or if you want to meet our scholarship deadline, please make sure to apply by X date. So it's really important you at least establish those and maybe have those somewhere so you can refer back to them when you do need them. Another very important point that's going to happen very early on in your senior year is the FAFSA. So that FAFSA is that free application for federal aid, and it's very important that you apply as soon as you can. It opens up on October 1st. Schools have their various deadlines for FAFSA. They might have a priority deadline. So really what I encourage you and your families to do is to sit down that weekend when it opens and complete it. It really doesn't take too long. I know it can sound daunting, all that tax information, but if you, again, talk to your high school counselor pretty early on and you use a data retrieval tool for your tax information, ultimately, it's really not too bad. So definitely make time to do that. And as we're talking about time for FAFSA, it's also really important to make time for other scholarships as well. So every school is going to have their own scholarship process, but a lot of the times there are so many external scholarships. Look at those. Dedicate some time to actually maybe writing an essay for a scholarship that's going to be local, or maybe that you do find one of those scholarship websites. I personally like to always encourage students to do a lot of local scholarships. They might not be the big $10,000 scholarships, but they are going to have a smaller pool of applicants typically. So you do have a higher chance of receiving them. And ultimately, all of those $500, $200, $1,000 scholarships do add up. So making time for that is going to be very worth your while. So, you know, talk to grandma, grandpa, aunt, your uncle, your neighbor, your neighbor's friend. Talk to your high school counselor and figure out what scholarships you should be looking at that are going to be best for you. And then as we're like kicking into gear, maybe, you know, some deadlines are coming up. It's around Thanksgiving time and the holidays are coming up in the winter. These are when deadlines are really going to start creeping up. So this is where, again, at the beginning of senior year, is really important. You knew, when are the deadlines for the schools that I really want to apply for? What do I need to do in order to meet these? So again, taking all that into account, do I need to have an application for this that includes an essay, that includes letters of recommendation? What do I need for it? There could be scholarship and financial aid deadlines that are happening in this time period. Deadlines, we'll say all day long, are very important, but they're so individual per school. So again, that's very important to connect to a college admissions counselor. Rolling admissions, we haven't talked about that yet. You might be a little bit confused about, when should I apply for rolling admissions? What is rolling admissions? So different from a school that might say, apply by November 1st. If you don't meet that deadline, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to apply. Rolling admissions, their application typically opens up at the beginning of your senior year, and you can apply at any point, pretty much for mostly the entirety of your senior year. So for example, University of Nevada, where application opens up in September, we close in April. You can apply at any time in that time period. If you have your application, you have all the documents we need in, we evaluate you right away. So you get a decision pretty quickly, but when to apply for that, you want to apply sooner because, again, typically scholarship deadlines are earlier and they are going to be in this December or April time period. And again, FAFSA is still very pertinent. Some schools might have deposit deadlines, so maybe you're doing early action, early decision, and those schools might need you to make a decision very early on, maybe before some other decisions are out. And that is going to be a very important conversation to have with your families and with your high school counselor. And as you're getting more decisions and you filled out your FAFSA, you've met the scholarship deadline for a said university you applied to, this is going to be very important to sit down and figure out, okay, I know what the school costs. How much am I going to actually pay after I apply any loans, grants, scholarships, or any other additional aid that I receive to this university? So one, this is a great point where admissions counselor is a great source of resource. Sometimes schools might offer appointments with their financial aid counselors. Admissions counselors are not fully well-versed in financial aid as we would love to be. So financial aid offices are really going to be the best point of contact, but an admissions officer can always direct you or at least help you answer some basic information. But it's very important to start having those conversations because I've found personally that price is a large factor for where students do decide to end up going to college. So it's very important to start making those connections. So you hopefully have already established that with their admissions counselor. You could establish that with other students who are already attending the university, maybe talking to them about it. You can talk to incoming freshmen that maybe you haven't met yet on social medias. It's very important that you have that network, you're using that network, so you do have a decision by the time any deposit deadlines are coming up. May 1st is big. Not every school does have a May 1st deposit deadline, but maybe around like February through April, you'll start hearing a lot of decisions. You'll start hearing a lot of financial aid information. So that's very important to start thinking about that at that point. And maybe the more exciting timeline out of all of this, you've figured out where you want to go and get excited for the school year. So, you know, get ready for orientation, get ready to move into the residence halls, make sure you've submitted all the documentation we need, namely your final high school transcript. That's very important. We want to know that you actually graduated from high school. If you need to save up some money for any additional fees for college, you can do so by getting a job. If you're going to maybe take any summer classes to prepare, great. If you just want to enjoy your summer, great. Every person's different. So don't feel like you're going to be behind also if you're not getting a job or if you're not doing any sort of extracurriculars. You can also totally enjoy your summer. And yeah, so really getting excited at this point is top priority for everyone here. And that's really the more formal, I wouldn't want to say stuffy, but the overload of information part of this presentation. So all three of us have dedicated time to more specifically talk about our university. We'll do a quick about 2 to 3 minute spiel for all of us, and then we're going to have a large amount of time for questions. So we'll just start off with my university since I am already speaking. So I am with University of Nevada, Reno. My contact info is on the screen. I am your main point of contact. So while I do live in Northern California, please reach out to me if you have questions about the university. We are located in Reno, Nevada, which is in Northern Nevada. So we are 45 minutes from Lake Tahoe. And for reference, we are an 8-hour drive from Las Vegas. So you're gonna have more of that high desert Sierra Nevadas experience. We are a tier 1 research institution. We have about 18,000 undergraduate students. We are part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange, which if you qualify, you could save about $12,700 on tuition. If you don't know what WUI is, please talk to your high school counselor. That is an amazing resource if you stay on the West Coast of the country. We are a Division I school. We're part of the Mountain West Conference. We do have an honors college on campus, so smaller class sizes, priority registration. None of our programs require any additional application. As long as you apply to our university, you can study whatever you choose. So we do have a lot of really cool things going on. You'll see from these photos, we do have a green traditional brick campus feel, and it's all in one area. While we are really close to downtown Reno, we do have a traditional campus feel. And we have a lot of programs. We have 145 different academic programs. They really do range in variety. We have everything from engineering to graphic design, social work. We have journalism. We have 4-year education degrees. We have chemistry. We have astronomy. We've got a lot going on. So if you want to know a little bit more about what we do offer, please reach out to me. And we're always kind of growing and expanding. We have a new parking garage, which is very exciting for our new incoming students. We have a new business building and new agriculture building being built. And I like to leave off on some photos. Reno is actually very beautiful. If you've been to Lake Tahoe, great. Come out to Reno, come check us out. Please take a tour. We have tours all the time throughout the summer. So if your travelers are taking you to Lake Tahoe, maybe even Napa, we're really not that far from Napa, about a 2-hour drive east, please come over and check us out. We would love to have you. We'll hand it on over to Muhlenberg.
Great, thanks, Shayla. You're actually closer to all like the California tourist spots than you are to Vegas, so that's good to know. Hi, everyone. So my name is Anna Marie Fahmy, and I'm the Regional Associate Director of Admissions for the West Coast at Muhlenberg College. I always like to start my presentations by explaining how to pronounce it, our name, because I know it can be confusing. So it's Muhlenberg. Easy way to remember that is our mascot is a mule, the animal. So his name is Marty the Mule. Next slide. So Muhlenberg College, we are a small private liberal arts college in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Allentown is actually the 3rd largest city in Pennsylvania, about 120,000 people. So it's not a small rural college town. We're actually pretty significant in size. To me, it feels like a suburban and urban at the same time, because you're within Allentown, we have a historic and growing downtown with museums and events and art scene, but you're also a short campus shuttle drive away from your suburban necessities like Target, the movie theater, Starbucks. So I think it's a good mix of both. And we're also an hour and a half outside of New York City and an hour outside of Philly. And students do go into those areas to see Broadway shows on the weekend or internships or other things. And Muhlenberg is small, just about 2,000 students, highly residential. Almost all of our students live on campus for all 4 years, about 91%. As a small school, we're small and we're welcoming. If you see my virtual background, also on the picture on the slide, you see red doors. Every exterior door at Muhlenberg is bright red, and that's a sign of welcome in the Lutheran faith. So I love being on campus because it's just a sea of green and then pops of red everywhere. It's a beautiful campus, and the red doors really are a good sign of welcome. Next slide. So as a welcoming place, we want to make sure that you have the freedom to study what you want. Could you go to the next slide, Shayla? Okay. So here are a list of all of our programs. About 30% of our students double major. Our most popular majors include theater, biology, business, psychology, and politics. Theater, we're known for our strength in the performing arts. Non-majors can be involved in our performing arts and visual arts programs, and auditions are also not required for admission to the major. So I think that works a little bit differently than what you may know for like traditional BFA applying to arts programs. Muhlenberg does not admit by major or by program. So you're applying to us generally, and then you have the first 2 years at Muhlenberg to figure out what you want to study. And you can also, like I said, double major. So students can do theater and political science. That's what our student body president is doing, or dance and biology. Outside of the performing arts, I think pre-health and the sciences in general is also something that draws students to our campus, particularly pre-med. Our medical school acceptance rate has been 87% for the last few years. And we also have a pre-dental partnership, like I mentioned at the beginning, with UPenn Dental. And lastly, I'll highlight politics. I think Pennsylvania is just a great place to be for if you're interested in politics, right? We have a polling center on campus where you can engage with local Pennsylvania voters. We also have one of the highest student voting rates in the country. Then the last slide, just a little bit about our deadlines. As Taylor was talking about earlier, it's important to keep in mind sort of schools that have rolling or other or actual deadlines. We have early decision, which is binding. We have 2 different dates for that, and then our traditional application option regular decision. I'm happy to answer any other questions, and I'll put the link to our information mailing list in the chat so you can fill out if you'd like to learn more. I'll turn it over to Lisa.
All right, thanks so much, Anna Marie. So hi, everybody, again. My name is Lisa Hansen with Seton Hall University. So Seton Hall is a leading Catholic university located just outside of New York City, only 14 miles away, a 30-minute train ride by subway or train. From our campus, the train station is only a 10-minute walk. So really, it only takes 30 minutes to get to Manhattan from there, which is very exciting for our students because they have the best of both worlds. They can live in a really nice suburban village type of setting and then be in New York City within minutes, and lots of opportunities there, not only for fun and adventure, those Broadway shows are calling, but also many, many internships. Also, we're only an hour and a half from Philadelphia, not too far from where Muhlenberg actually is, and then also really close to the Newark airport. Usually our families visiting fly into Newark. And we are close to outdoor activities too. So if the outdoors are calling your name, we have those trails available too. We are considered a mid-sized university, just a little over 6,000 undergraduate students. And for our size, very diverse. We actually have risen. I needed to change the slide, but our diversity rate is now up to 48%. So quite diverse. As you can imagine, we pull a lot of our students from the East Coast. But the West Coast is growing. California is our 3rd largest out-of-state population. So a lot of students finding us from the West Coast too. And then next slide, please. For our majors, we have a lot of majors. We have over 90 different programs that we offer, and they really range anywhere from all the liberal arts opportunities to sciences, engineering, graphic arts, international relations. So I'll talk about some of the ones that are very popular amongst our students. So I would say students from the West Coast typically will be gravitating towards Seton Hall for that access to New York City. And because of that, they find really great business opportunities and business internships. Our business school is excellent. It's ranked very highly nationally. It's AACSB accredited, which is a fancy term for good accreditation to have if you want to be going into accounting or any other kind of graduate business field. We have a mock trading room where students learn to trade with a real fund of money. We have a sports polling center where students work directly with ESPN to conduct sports polls. We have a lot going on in our business school. Many internships, so many we don't have enough students to fill them. Then we have our communication and arts. Of course, being next to New York City, lots of students do go to work for all those major TV networks, radio stations. Also, many have gone on to intern and or perform on Broadway. So that's very exciting. Our radio station is Marconi Award winner and also has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's always fun for students to work at our radio station. Then our diplomacy and international students, we have a direct alliance with the United Nations of America in New York City. So a lot of our students in our School of Diplomacy and International Relations do internships with the UN, also embassies domestically or abroad. They also do a lot of internships with, organizations like the FBI, the CIA, the Secret Service, different things like that. Kind of depends on what you want to go into. And then we've got great healthcare opportunities. So we have direct entry nursing. We also have dual degree or 6-year programs for physician assistant, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language pathology, and a 5-year athletic training program. So overall, Seton Hall is known for outcomes. So you can see here we're ranked among the top 5 for our internship opportunities. Number 4, most of our students do anywhere between 3 to 5 internships before they graduate. So they are very well on their way to establishing their career. Many end up with multiple job offers. I was just on a virtual open house the other day where a student was having to decide between 3 different job offers and the next day or two. So it was a great problem to have. So we'd like to see that our students are well on their way to finding those first jobs and getting off their parents' payroll. So next slide, please. And then Seton Hall, another slide about the numbers. Here we feature our Mr. Pirate. So our pirate is our mascot. We are the Seton Hall Pirates with Division I athletics, 14 different Division I athletic teams. We also do have club sports and intramural sports, of course, but some great numbers to mention. We have a great medical school. We also have a fabulous law school where we offer dual degree programs into law as well. Business leadership program is ranked #1 in the country. So lots of different opportunities for our students to explore at Seton Hall. So I hope you can come visit us too. We are so close to New York City, so if you're headed to that area, jump on a train, get to South Orange, New Jersey, and you'll be just steps away from our campus. So hopefully you can come visit us soon.
All right, so that we do have some time left, so about 15 minutes or so to answer some questions. And I do know we had one in the chat, so I'm just gonna ask it out and either of you can answer it. In regards to letters of recommendation, should they be specific to an individual program? So this individual said, for example, if you're applying to a physics program, should those recommendations be primarily from science teachers?
Question. I'd say first definitely check with the university, the admissions office, or the program itself, because sometimes they will clearly lay out what their preference is. If they don't, I'd ask, especially if you're applying to a like if you're applying to physics at a school, right? If you don't see any sort of information on the website of what they prefer, definitely ask. I will say, I think if, for example, like a college like mine, where we don't admit by major or by program, you're just applying to the college generally. We're a liberal arts school, so I think for us, we like to see that students are sort of multi-interested and multi-talented, right? So, whether that's getting letters of recommendation from 2 different subject areas, just to kind of, I can't talk anymore. Just to round out your application. So no, just keep that in mind too, is that some schools may list that out and some schools may not. I don't know if you all have any other preference or ideas.
Yeah, I would say, like Anna Marie mentioned, it really depends on the university. And I think that if it is a super selective university and or physics program, for example, and it's pretty tough to get into that physics program, you've already identified that, you might want to definitely, it's in your best interest to reach out to them, reach out to that admissions counselor and or the university. And we're going to say this a lot. Unfortunately, it depends on the university. It depends on their program. It depends on how they operate. So really important. And we're going to all encourage you here tonight. All of us, I know my colleagues as well. We love to get in touch with you. We love for you to reach out to us because we want to provide you with the answers so it's not a mystery. And so please don't feel afraid to do that because that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. And I know I did answer this question in the chat, but I'm still going to answer it out loud because that's better for the recording. In regards to what Scholarship Sunday is, it's not a phrase that's necessarily universally used and is like a formal word you'll find in the dictionary. It's more or less just saying dedicate some time to apply for scholarships. Scholarship Sunday is a really great alliteration. That's probably why it's used. If you apply for scholarships on Wednesday, that's great too. It totally is whatever works best for you. And let's see. So coming in, So some advice on how in-state and out-of-state differs from admissions and fee perspective. So I'm assuming you're probably thinking like the cost of tuition if you're an out-of-state or in-state student.
You can start, Shaylor, because I think you might want to talk about WUI, right?
Yeah, I can totally do that. So that also comes into play when you're looking at a private versus a public school. So private schools just have one cost of tuition. It doesn't matter whether you're an in-state student or an out-of-state student. If you're attending Harvard, they have one price. And so that's going to be that one sticker price, where that varies if you're attending a public institution, whereas they're going to have an in-state price. So the University of Nevada has our in-state Nevada price for Nevada residents. And then anyone coming from any other state has an out-of-state price. Now, typically, there's a pretty big difference. So in-state at the University of Nevada, about $7,000 per year. Out-of-state is about $22,000 for the year. So that's definitely something to consider. That's why scholarships are important. And in my case, WUI, or the Western Undergraduate Exchange, is very important because that cuts down your tuition down to about $11,000 per the year. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of figure out how can I get a reduced tuition rate. Same for you, Anna Marie. My words are rolling at an institution. But in general, public schools have in-state and out-of-state, privates do not.
And another thing I'll add that is sort of beyond just the public versus private in terms of what the cost of college is you may find that there's that like as Shaylor said, the sort of that price of what the school costs. Like this school is $70,000 for tuition, room and board, everything. But that's not what everybody pays, right? Some students will pay that amount. Some students will pay 40, some students will pay $0 or $1, right? So it just depends on the amount of scholarships and financial aid that the school has and that the student receives. So the sticker price may not be what you end up having to pay.
Right. And I know Shaylor talked about this briefly before, scholarships. So sometimes, like she mentioned earlier, the earlier you apply, the better chance you might have to get additional scholarship money. It really depends on the university and kind of what they're looking for in their pool and how much scholarship money they start with versus how much is available towards the end of that admission cycle. So it is definitely in your best interest to apply not only for scholarship consideration, but also I would say just to show that you're very interested in that particular university, because that does show us that you're pretty interested. If you're applying in October or November, that shows that we're on your radar, right? So if it comes to the point where you want to contest or appeal for more scholarship money, well, we're going to look at that as a university and say, I'm pretty sure if we give them a little bit more money, they might come and be part of our community. So those kinds of factors are really important. And I know earlier was mentioned the external scholarships. There are a lot of external scholarships out there that are really random kind of scholarships too. I've heard students tell me about scholarships for very tall students or students that have, a specific characteristic. I mean, there's some that I've never even heard of. So those are out there. And then also, I know Shaylor mentioned this too, pay attention to those scholarship deadlines. So for Seton Hall, I'll just say specifically for us, we do have scholarship deadlines for our special scholarships. And those are scholarships like our debate scholarship, which can be a very generous scholarship. Scholarships for pep band or other little things like that, other definite scholarships that we offer, that you want to keep track of those scholarship deadlines if you're particularly interested in a specific university.
And I'm going to jump on over to the Honors College. I know that I have one, so I'm going to, either of you are feel free to answer that. Not every university has an Honors College. And historically, the idea of an Honors College is mostly because so many students were going to private schools to get this small class size experience, and large publics, for example, we're thinking, you know what, we want to offer that. We're a large public school, so we might not be able to have 10 people in a class, but we want to offer something where they can have that personalized experience. So honors colleges did really come about. So University of Oregon is really like the first big honors college on the West Coast, for example. And the idea is that you do get those small class sizes. You have professors that are only there to teach honor students, or they request to teach honor students. So they want to be around those types of students that might be pushing themselves a little bit more. Honors colleges also have maybe special access to research opportunities. There might be certain scholarships for honors students. There could be more additional study abroad opportunities. There could be an opportunity to write a thesis. You might have to do volunteer work. So that's a lot to take in. So ultimately, if you're looking to maybe have a small class size experience, not necessarily at a private, you can look at maybe some publics and honors colleges, but that's not only what it's all about. So either of you are welcome to add to that. Or move on to another question too.
We don't have an honors college, but we have honors programs that students may be selected for at the time of admission. So these aren't ones that you would apply to, but it's just sort of, you know, our top applicants, we may offer this sort of, for example, we have one for pre-med students. So it's a smaller cohort, kind of like what Shayla was talking about. It's a smaller cohort that students would be a part of at our school and take certain classes and have certain speaker events, internships, things like that. And that comes with a $5,000 a year award scholarship. On that note, I'll also say too, I know there are a lot of questions in the chat about when to apply for scholarships and grants. And so I think that this can be a parallel process, right? You're applying to college, but then there's also figuring out how to pay for it. But those processes may also end up merging too, right? Thinking about college, the colleges themselves give out scholarships and grants, right? So every college that if you're interested in, every college is supposed to have something called the net price calculator. And so you can get a sense of, if you put in your family income and some other information, get a sense of what it may actually cost to attend that college with the aid that they would be giving you. And keep in mind too, if you and your family are looking for need-based aid, so that's based on your family income and how much you can afford to pay, versus hoping, if you're not applying for sort of that aid, but you're hoping for some other scholarships. So there are outside scholarships and grants, but then there's also colleges that will give you money to go there.
And for the question for anyone who has a son in 11th grade, or any student in 11th grade, the idea is that they will be a senior next year. So college applications, some of them open as early as June. So it really just depends. If you, for the most part, most seniors do start applying sometime in that September through October, November, December range. That's where a large majority of deadlines are. So that first semester of senior year is going to be really the bulk of college applications. Typically scholarships are a little bit later, but as we've said, rule of thumb for college really does depend per university. And
You guys got the applying to multiple colleges and letters of rec just now. Did you answer that one?
we did not.
Okay, it says, if a student is applying to multiple colleges, will the college counselors or teachers be giving multiple hard copies of the same letter of recommendation?
Yeah, so for that one, I'm honestly going to say most of the time schools aren't using hard copies anymore. A lot of this is electronic. It can depend per school. I mean, it's also going to depend on where a university's application can be found. Sometimes, like a common application, coalition application, it might be easier for a counselor to upload it like all in one space for it to go to multiple places. But so it's going to be individual. So Tanya, if you want to add more about what you're doing on your end, go for it.
Sure. I'll just add that, you know, for the students that I've been working with in the Beaverton School District and in my time the last several years, especially now more than ever, you know, I would say that close to 90% of the colleges that the students are applying to, at least in these parts, use the common application portal. And so what happens is if most of the colleges that the student is applying to are on that portal, then the teachers one time upload the letter of rec and the counselor one time uploads the letter of rec, boom, it's done, it's easy. But there, of course, is going to be other times where kids apply through a different portal like the Coalition or Send EDU, or just through the college's portal on their website. And so sometimes the letter of rec has to be electronically sent differently, but yeah, no more hard copies, definitely. But hopefully that answers the question.
I would also add to, and I'm not a high school counselor, but I know that they have a lot on their plate. And so when you request a letter of recommendation, please give ample time for them to write that letter of recommendation. Do not request it like, oh, I need this in 2 weeks. At least a month is going to be at least. Very, very generous for your high school counselors.
I see a question about establishing residency. And so Tanya, I'm sure that's probably something that you have lots of conversations about. I don't know if you want to, I have an assumption of what I think maybe generally, I know for California the answer, but I'm just curious what you would say.
Yeah, but that's a good, yeah, I actually didn't see that question, but I love that question for a lot of reasons, but I won't bring my personal stuff into this, but I found that it just depends on the state, and it's really difficult to get residency in some states because of course they want your money, they want that out-of-state money. And there are colleges like the University of Utah, for example, is one school that has the WUI, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, but they also have where if you live there for up to at least 5 of the weeks in the summer, and you prove that you have a job and that you're living there for at least that amount of time. And there's ways that you can prove that you're living there, but it's very difficult to do, even in the states where they say that it's easy. So it's not something that anyone really should be relying on.
I think especially for California, from what I heard, it's pretty much not an option, right? It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Some
Okay.
people will say that, oh, my dad lives in California and works there part-time. And so he has an apartment there or something. And can I just say that I'm living with him? It's like, well, no, you graduated from a school in Oregon, your high school transcript says Oregon, and where are they filing taxes? It's a lot more heavy than that. So I would make the assumption that in general, it's kind of a no. Unless your whole family ups and moves there and you really do live there full time and can prove that.
Yeah, and like you said, Tanya, it's complicated based on the states. I worked for a school, a public state school in Colorado for a while, and for Colorado, it used to be a lot more loosey-goosey, where it was easy to establish that residency, but then they cracked down, and so a student moving to Colorado to establish residency really has to be totally independent of their parents for at least 1 year. So again, it's going to depend on the university. You really need to check in with that university to find out what the situation is specifically.
And I also will add, if you're attending a WUI institution, typically the rule of thumb is you cannot work towards residency if you are on a reduced tuition program. So if you are a WUI student, you can't say, oh, well, I'm going to come here and then I have WUI, the next year I'll just be an in-state student. That's not how it works. If you're WUI and you're getting that rate, the idea is that you are an Oregon resident still, but you just are on WUI. So keep that in mind for any WUI institutions as well.
It's just best to make the assumption that you're not going to get the in-state, that you're not going to get residency, and work towards applying for more scholarships and communicating with the financial aid offices of the universities that you're truly passionate about going to, and that making sure that it's the right fit for you, because college is about finding your fit. And if it financially works out, then that's great. But if not, then maybe it's not meant to be, That's my advice. And so in transitioning, it looks like there's no more current questions, and we're 2 minutes away from our next session. I'd love to just thank our guests that we had here today. So we had Anne Marie and is it Schaller?
It's Shaler. Think of it like Taylor with an SH.
Okay, Shaler, Lisa, and Anne Marie, thank you so much for coming. That was really fun. And I was messaging my coworker on the side, just saying, we were saying how lovely you guys have been, and you work so well together as a team. And it was just truly a blessing to have you here. So thanks.
Thanks for having us.
And feel free to stay on if you want. Next, I'd like to introduce Sue Corner from Willamette University. So she's the Dean of Admissions here at Willamette University. So welcome, Sue. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, and I'm going to be making you a co-host so that you are able to screen share. I'm assuming you want to screen share.
Yes, okay, that would be great.
And
thanks very much.
So once again, she is here to talk about writing the college essay. And Sue, before, I've done enough talking. So is there anything specifically that you need from us? I'm going to stay on and watch and listen, or shall I just turn it over to you?
Oh, I think I can take it away. I just appreciate you inviting me, you and Chris and Anne, for having me here. I don't know if I told you this, but a really long time ago, I was a a Beaverton district. And so I always love to participate in any way I can.
Oh, awesome. I did
so
not know that.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. It was a very long time ago. But anyway, I appreciate being here. I'm actually in Helena, Montana right now at a conference, and Zoom allow us to do this. So I really appreciate being here. I will share my screen and we'll get started.
All right. I wanted to be there with you. That would have been great next year, next time.
Next year. Yeah, it's a small group this year. So, but it's good. Okay, so hi, everyone. It looks like it's a great group tonight, Tanya. So nice that you have such a good turnout. Wonderful that people are thinking ahead about this process and to think about application already for next year. Again, I'm the Dean of Admission for the Arts and Sciences at Willamette University in Salem. I've been at Willamette for about 20 years. And my favorite thing to talk about is writing the college essay. It's just my favorite part of the application process. I think it tends to be something that can garner anxiety among students. They want this piece of the application. There are some sort of myths out there about what it's for, and how it works as part of this whole process. And so tonight I'll try to just kind of give you some insight from the perspective of someone who has read thousands and thousands and thousands of essays over the years. My information is there just for those who, might have follow-up questions at the end. I'm very available questions for people, not just about Willamette by any means, but about the application process generally, essay writing. So what I'm going to cover tonight is, what role does the essay play in the application? Why do we even ask for this? What are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to your application essay? Just some, tips that I have gathered up over some common mistakes that I see students make. So we'll steer you away from those. And then I think what is the most popular part of this session when I've done it in the past is we'll have a little bit of time and we'll just talk a little bit about what does a really effective essay sound like. I'll read two of them for you that I have picked out in the years, and we'll talk, if you're willing to be a little bit interactive, we'll talk a little bit about they're effective and how you can achieve some of the same things that these essays achieve. So what role does the essay play in the application? There are exactly two things in my opinion part of the application really accomplishes. It has two very primary roles. The essay is an academic measure of your preparation for college. So it speaks to your readiness, and that's a really important thing that we're trying to. Different schools are going to try to assess in different ways depending on what their expectations are. But your writing should represent where you are academically, and it should be your very best work. It also helps us understand who you are and what's important to you. So it's less about the I get that question from people. Does the essay really matter? Can I rush through it? Because I don't really think anybody's going to even read it, but absolutely it matters. For many institutions, and this is absolutely the case for Willamette, the essay is really the second thing only to the transcript when it comes to our understanding of your academic preparation for our institution. So for instance, if I am reading someone's application and I'm doing this holistic review that we do at Willamette, where we read every single thing we ask for, and I look at the transcript and I'm a little bit uncertain about whether the student is ready to be successful at Willamette. There are some issues in the transcript that might make me unsure. If you're on the cusp like that, the very next place I turn to try to better understand you as an academic person and your academic preparation is going to be the essay. The way you write, the level of writing that you display in your essay is going to be something that can really be the tipping point between my thinking, oh, yes, they are ready. There are these, maybe bumps in their transcript or areas where they don't necessarily excel. And yet I see they have a solid writing foundation. I know that this is going to help them succeed at Willamette. Or the opposite can be true. There are some bumps in that transcript. I'm just not sure you're ready. And then I turn and see an ill-prepared essay, something that does not display the level of writing that we really need to see at the point of entering Willamette, and that can land you in the deny or the waitlist bin. So it really can be a very pivotal part of the application overall. I don't say that to add pressure, not at all. I say that for people to really take it seriously and know that it's important and you shouldn't write it last minute or in a rushed manner. The essay is also really unique within the application. If you think of the different components that most institutions ask for, whether it's on the common application, which is what we use at Willamette, or an institution-specific application, whatever application you're using, it's sort of a standard set of things that we ask for. We look at some biographical information, who you are, what school you go to, sometimes who your parents or your siblings are, just some of that kind of background information. We ask for a list of classes that you've taken. We ask for a list of grades. We ask for a list of activities. It's a lot of things that when you really kind of add it up, it's all of these small data points about who you are. It's little pieces and lists that are all incredibly important. And when we add them all up, they are, they tell us a very important story about who you are. But the essay is different. The essay is like you started talking to me. You're looking at all of these other little lists and data points, and then you get to the essay and it's like your voice coming through in a way that's wholly different than everything else. It's very personal. If I've met with an applicant for an interview before I read their application, which I definitely prefer to do, we love to have those one-on-one conversations if we can. That changes the way we read that essay. The voice comes through in an even more profound way because we can sort of picture the person. It's just a very unique part of the application, and it's the place where, in my opinion, you can stand out the most. So what are some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to the application essay? Again, these are things that I've just kind of garnered over the years in my experience, some of the things that I see students or families making a mistake when it comes to the essay. The first one is almost laughable. It doesn't seem like I should have to say this, but in the day and age that we're living in, do write the essay yourself and with a clear understanding that your essay will be read and it can affect the admission decision. It does not seem like I should have to say that this should be your work, but there was some bad behavior a few years ago with that whole Varsity Blues scandal. And I think it is important to know that no one else should write or significantly change your essay for you. The whole point of the essay is what I mentioned a minute ago. It's about your voice, your experience, the context of who you are coming through. And that doesn't happen if someone else writes a significant amount of your essay for you or writes the piece for you. It just defeats the whole purpose. I think Tanya said this just a minute ago at the end of the previous session. The college application process and the college search itself is about finding your fit. And if you're trying to work the system by having someone else produce parts of your application, you're not authentically searching for the right fit. You might find yourself mismatched with an institution if you've misrepresented something. So that's not what you want to do. The essay should be your work, and it should be work that you're really proud of. As long as you give yourself time to do so, it can be something you're really proud of. Now, kind of as an add-on to that, you do want to have someone that you trust proofread your essay for you. You want someone to help clean up those little grammatical errors, those punctuation errors, those things that I think sometimes when you're really close to a piece of writing, if you've been working on it over a few weeks or some time, you can start to gloss over or miss some of those little details that a fresh set of eyes will catch for you. That is completely appropriate. That does not count as someone else doing your work for you. Any important piece of writing in your life should have another set of eyes on it before you turn it over. And so having someone proofread is really, really important. Don't wait until 11 p.m. before a midnight deadline to complete your essay, or to complete any part of your application for that matter. The essay is something that should be worked on over time. Again, like any important piece of writing, you should have a few iterations of it before it's complete. Rushing through this important document almost always ensures that parts of it will come through as sloppy. And here's what happens when I'm reading an application and the essay is rushed. There are a couple of different assumptions that I can make, right or wrong. This can happen. If the essay is really short, or it's filled with errors, or it just doesn't seem to be like the quality of the writing matches the level of the transcript of the student. If it just seems sloppy, I might think, gosh, I don't think this student is really very interested in Willamette because they did not put forth effort in this piece of writing. I'm not sure that I want to extend an offer of admission because it just really doesn't seem like they care. Or I might make the assumption that, oh gosh, this piece of writing does not demonstrate the level of ability that we need to see. So this person just might not have what we need them to have to be successful. And that's what we're looking for in all parts of the application. We are seeking the right fit. We're seeking to set a student up for success at our institution. And if there are red flags around preparation, we don't want to put anybody in that bad situation. So we might think, they're really just not a good writer and not ready. The other assumption that can be made is you're just not a good time manager. You rushed, you didn't give yourself time to do this. You're not organized about something that's pretty important. We do get a time stamp when things get turned in, so we can see when those when those applications come in really, really close to the deadline. And it can create some concerns about, gosh, is this person really ready to manage the workload that we're going to give them? So all of those things can come into play just because you didn't, appropriately proofread or have someone proofread your essay. You may be a very good writer. You may typically be a very organized person, and Willamette may be at the very top of your application list. You don't want to convey something other than those things, if those are all true about you, just because you didn't take time with your essay. So don't rush, don't be sloppy. Do choose a topic. The topic is always a huge piece of the puzzle with the essay. People kind of agonize over, what should I write about? You do want to choose a topic that allows you to stand out a little bit and tell a story that's important to you. What we're looking for is insight into who you are. Again, it's about context. It's about understanding who you are, what you've done, who you might be should you join our community. All of those things are things we look for in the essay. So you want to choose a topic that's really sort of unique to you. And yet at the same time, you don't need to spend weeks and weeks agonizing over, is this the right topic or not? Is there such a thing as a wrong topic? Any topic really is okay. I mean, you'd be surprised at the things that I have read about over the years. It's way less actually about the topic that you ultimately choose, and far more about how you tell the story around that topic. And I think that concept is just a little bit hard to understand, but I promise when I read a couple of essays to you, this will make sense. It will demonstrate that it's really not about the topic when it's all said and done. It's about your voice coming through and the story itself. You don't want to waste time worrying about the topic that's time that you could be using to actually be writing. That's the more important part of the process. Do answer the prompt. Depending on what kind of application you're writing. We use the Common Application at Willamette, so that's kind of what I always think about. But the Common App gives you 6 or 7 or 8 different prompts that you can choose from, and you want to actually answer it. You get to choose one, but you should actually address it within your essay. They're so broad that you can really write about almost anything and make it work with one of the prompts that is made available to you. You do want to be mindful of the word count that's given, and not because you want to just pad a piece of writing until it's right up to the total number that you're given or that you're allowed, but you don't want to be so short in terms of what you're offering that you stand out as being lazy or not having maximized this opportunity. Every single piece of the application, whether that's the biographic information, the where you list your classes, the activities listing, all of these things are opportunities for you to give us as much context and information as you can possibly pack in there. That's what we're looking for. And if you cut the essay short and just don't really use the maximum word count, you're kind of missing out on that opportunity to give us as much as you possibly can. We often, when I'm reading applications during the winter season, I'll often, stay home for a day and I'll read essay after essay, application after application in succession. And we're not reading them really to compare to one another, but sometimes it's a little bit hard not to do that when you're reading one after another. And so you just don't want to suffer by having that comparison to other essays that are more fully formed. Now, the don't on this side is something that I think the folks at the Common App might take issue with me for saying, but I'm giving you this insight because I think it's important. I don't think you should reuse a piece of writing you've written for a class, unless that writing was, the class assignment was to write a college essay. I think, and the Common App does give a prompt that says, bring us a piece of writing you've already done for something else that you feel really proud of. But I don't think you should do that, because over the years, I feel like it is very, very obvious when I come across an essay that is clearly written as an academic piece of writing for somebody's, history class or English class. It reads differently. And almost always, maybe not in every single case, but in many, many cases, if you remember, there are 2 really main purposes of the essay. One is to display really good writing. You're the best writing you can do. And an academic piece that you've written for another class usually gives us that. It's often a very clean, very well organized, very well written piece. The other purpose is to tell us who you are, give us some insight into you, help us know you better and understand where you're coming from. A reused piece almost always falls short on that part of the purpose of the essay. There's just something typically that is colder, less personal, less exciting, honestly, as the application reader when it's a piece that was written for a class. So you can do what you want with that piece of advice, and it is allowed on the Common App to reuse a piece of writing. I just think you're not maximizing the essay for what it's really intended for if you do that. Do think about all the ways you provide context within the essay. Again, it's about context. We're looking to understand you. This point will be made clear again when I read a couple of essays. There are different ways within this piece of writing, even though it's not super long, it's about a page usually. You can pack lots of details about who you are into the story that you're telling if you look for ways to do that. And all of those little things will give clues to us to better understand who you are. The don't on this slide is a little bit funny. Don't mention a specific school within your Common Application essay. For those who do use the Common App, it is used by, I don't know, almost 1,000 schools these days, colleges and universities. Lots and lots of places use it. And all of the vast majority of the pieces that are asked for within the Common App are truly common to every institution that you apply to with the Common App. So if you apply to Willamette and you apply to Lewis and Clark and you apply to Whitman and you apply to Reed, all parts of the Common Application will go to all 4 institutions. So that means if within your essay you express your undying love for Lewis and Clark, I will get my feelings hurt when I'm reading your essay at Willamette. You just don't want to write with that level of specificity in your essay because it might be seen, you might be submitting it to another place. And I think sometimes students do this because they think at the beginning of their college search, they think, well, I'm completing the Common Application, but there's only one school on the Common App that I'm going to submit this to. So it's okay for me to express my undying love for that institution in my essay. And then it's very, very common. I have seen this over the years, and I'm sure your counselors who are on this Zoom call have seen this too, where over the course of the senior year and in the midst of the college search, that list of colleges that you're applying to can grow and evolve and change a little bit. And what's wonderful about the Common App is if a place comes on your radar screen that you hadn't thought you were interested in, you decide you are, you've already completed the Common App, you already have it, so you can send it off quickly and easily to that additional institution. But if you've already written an essay specific to just one institution, then it kind of compromises. It doesn't mean that you won't be admitted to that other place. It just is a little bit of a, I don't know, a little bit of a faux pas. So don't do that. Okay, so now let's get to the part of the session that I think really will bring a lot of this together. I'm going to read 2 essays for you that have stood out to me, and I'll talk you through why I think they're effective when they're all said and done. So you can close your eyes, you can do whatever you like as to listen, but it's going to be story time. So the first essay that I'm reading, the prompt for this one is discuss an accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked your transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. So pretty broad topic, right? And this person, they sort of did a title or a header to their essay. You don't have to do that. I would say the vast majority of people do not title their essay in some way, but you can. This person at the top wrote social capital, and then in parentheses, the word noun, like a dictionary entry. Social capital, with the definition, the network of social connections that exist between people and their shared values, which enable and encourage mutually advantageous social cooperation. I grew up in Meeker, Colorado, a Rocky Mountain town of 2,500 people. Both of my parents' families were community cornerstones, holding high social capital. My dad's family ran the local grocery store, and my mom's a reputable cattle operation. My siblings too had graduated from Meeker High School, meaning everyone expected me to become a 3-sport varsity athlete, get involved in church and charity work, and maintain a perfect GPA, as they had done. Had the setting been different, none of it would have mattered. But from an early age, it felt like I was expected to write the next chapter in a multi-generational legacy. As media stereotypes would suggest, high school was the catalyst for fame in my small town. But the summer before my freshman year, my parents decided to move 1,200 miles northwest to Scio, Oregon. We packed our belongings, bringing everything with us except the reputation and tradition of the family name. As we left the city limits, I felt almost naked. Starting a new life with a clean slate proved difficult. On the first day of school, it surprised me when my classmates didn't save a spot for me in the front of the classroom, and my teachers asked if I felt comfortable reading aloud. At home in Meeker, everyone knew I had always worked hard to be an exceptional student. On that day began the hardest test I'd ever faced. Never before had I experienced the lows of loneliness and homesickness. Like a sailor thrown overboard in choppy water, I plunged into high school with two clear choices. Trying to fit in, being someone I wasn't, felt worse than drowning. To be myself, an athlete, scholar, fun-loving weirdo, was tough. But when I worked up the courage, it was like learning to save myself from the rough seas, and I chose to swim. Even today, midway through my senior year, it continues to be challenging to act authentically and craft the legacy that I desire. I've learned that my reputation at school can't be formed with words. Rather, it's defined by my actions. Whether those actions include being the most rambunctious fan at the football games, leading the school as the student body president, or studying to ace the semester finals, they all contribute to the formation of a reputation I'm proud of. There's a photo of me from the day my family moved from Colorado. I'm sitting on the tailgate of our pickup truck, a floppy-haired kid, smiling hard to conceal the uneasiness I felt. Next to that picture sits a proof for my senior portraits. I've grown 6 inches, filled out, but the most shocking difference is how comfortable I look, sporting my favorite purple shirt, the smoothness of my brow, the void of tension, and the gratitude-fueled grin painted across my face. My journey to the Northwest has served as the bridge from childhood over the waters of adolescence into adulthood. It has been more profound than any event in my lifetime. Here I find myself again on the brink of another big move from high school to college. Last time I had no say in the matter, but the benefit of being thrown from my comfort zone was nothing but positive and formative. This time, I'm not only excited, but ready. I know who I am, I know what I want, and I can't wait to make it happen. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why this is an effective essay, in my opinion. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. I think it's wonderfully done for lots of reasons. There is a storytelling quality to this essay that I particularly find appealing, and I think other essay readers do as well. There isn't anything stiff about this piece. It isn't so highly structured that it's inaccessible. Again, it's that idea that this person, it just feels like he's telling me a story. It feels like he's talking to me about this experience in his life. It's a narrative way of inviting me in to something that's meaningful, and that's very winsome. I had said something earlier about looking for ways to pack details about the context from which you're coming from into the essay, and I think he did a great job of that. He said things like, Everybody knew that I was expected to get involved in church and charity work, or my family had this cattle ranch, or I was a student athlete and the student body president. He's telling a bigger story, but he tucks all of these little things in that help me know more about who he is. And I love that. Some of those details were not necessary for me to understand this story, but they helped. They made it richer, and they helped me know him better when I was done reading this piece. I love that this student used this nice little piece of kind of writing imagery where they talked about, like a sailor thrown overboard in choppy water, I plunged into high school with choices, trying either sink or swim. That was nicely done. People don't have to bring in those kind of writing devices, but I thought it showed a level of writing maturity that was nice. He wrapped it around then at the end, where he really did a good job of using that same imagery to address the prompt very clearly. He says, let's see, my journey to the Northwest has served as the bridge from childhood over the waters of adolescence into adulthood. So again, it's more of that kind of water bridge imagery that very directly addresses the prompt. I thought he did that very nicely. The language throughout this piece is really straightforward. If I were to read it again, you would notice he's not using really big, complicated words. This isn't something that you listen to this and you think, there is no way I could ever write this. This person is such a talented writer. There's no way I could ever do that. I don't think that's the case here. I think he uses very accessible, straightforward language. He's just taken care to put it together in a way that tells a great story. There's also something that I think is really interestingly done here, which is there's a vulnerability that comes through in the way he talks about how challenging it was to move into a new community, to leave all of that social capital that his family had built up over generations, to leave that behind and have to come into a new community and be his authentic self and not sort of just go with the crowd, but craft his, what does he say? Craft his legacy kind of every day. There's a vulnerability in talking about that and saying that he experienced these lows of loneliness and homesickness that he had never experienced before. I love that he expresses that and lets me into that. That kind of vulnerability is very appealing in an essay. Really, any way that you can move the reader is a very good thing within your essay. Again, if you think about that day that I will have sometimes at home when I'm sitting there reading just application after application after application, if the essay is dry or just a little bit dull, it's often fine. But when you get to the essay that moves you to cry or to laugh or to really make you think about something in a new way, that's a really good thing to do. Because again, what are you trying to do with your application overall and with the essay specifically? You're trying to stand out in a sea of applicants. You're trying to say, here's who I am. Here's why I deserve admission and a great scholarship. You know, you want to be memorable. You want to stand out. And if you can move the reader in some way, that really helps. It makes my day when I read some really good essays. It's very common for me to stop in a day like that and just email that student right then and there and say, hey, you know what, your essay amazed me and it really made my day to read something as thoughtful as what you wrote. It makes a difference. So that vulnerability or that emotion is really good. And then here's the thing, we had talked before about agonizing over the essay or understanding what you should write about and how do you choose the topic. The topic of this essay, sometimes I will ask audiences when I'm in person, I'll say, what was the topic? And they'll think, and the topic of this essay was that he moved. That's it. He's talking about moving. This is not a unique experience. Lots of people have moved in their lifetime. This idea that you have to come up with a topic that is so unique to you that no one else in the history of 17-year-olds has ever experienced it before, that's a really heavy task. For a lot of people, there is no such thing yet in their life that is so different to them that it's entirely unique. He picked a very standard topic. He just wrote about it in a way that was very personal and unique to him. That's the key. That's what you want to find in your topic. Okay, we've got a little bit more time. I'm going to read another, and then we'll have time for questions. This one doesn't have any sort of topic, but the prompt is discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. So again, very broad. Old people love clam chowder and pickled beets. You can tell them your name is Katie, but expect to be called Kate, Catherine the Great, Kathy, or anything else even remotely similar. If you forget an old person's name, take the chance of calling them Bill, Bob, or Jim. You will likely be right. These are a few of the important lessons I have learned while working as a dining room server at Madrona Hills Retirement. Where I work, everyone is a regular, setting my job apart from other servers. Every day I smile and greet each resident by name. I know exactly who sits in what seat and whether they drink decaf or regular coffee. I found comfort and humor in the familiarity I share with the residents, whether they treat me like their own grandchild or slap my hand away as I reach for their empty ice cream dish. ... Mary. Working with funny and grouchy residents alike, I have realized that interacting with older people is an incredibly rewarding experience, for they have taught me so many valuable lessons without even trying. Dorothy is 98 years old, which means she gets whatever she wants whenever she wants it. Each day, she wears her uniform of pearls and her yellow cardigan. Her day begins with orange juice, 2 eggs over easy, and white toast, which she eats methodically while reading the morning paper. Dorothy must always inspect the nightly dessert before deciding if she wants it. And if she does, decaf coffee must appear instantaneously in her mug. Most of my coworkers avoid Dorothy due to her specific demands, but for some reason I find myself drawn to her and her quirks. By observing Dorothy's opinionated nature, I have learned the value of routine and detail. She is equally excited each morning as she was the day before at the sight of her monotonous breakfast. And I think that's beautiful. Unknowingly, Dorothy has inspired me to relish in the comfort of daily intricacies rather than dwell on the boredom of sameness. Another impactful resident I've come to know is Raleigh, whom I met accidentally in the supply room. I went searching for the mop at the end of my shift, but instead I happened upon Raleigh, cooling off in front of the air vent. We began chatting about sports and school, but the conversation quickly became one-sided, and I listened to his stories from his career as a teacher and coach. Raleigh told me about the honor of being voted Teacher of the Year by his students and being inducted into the Cribbage Hall of Fame. From Raleigh's eagerness to share his story with me, I sensed that perhaps he had wanted to tell it for a long time. Tears filled my eyes as he explained that young people have always been the light of his life. By the time I finally departed, all my coworkers were long gone, the lights off in the kitchen. Although I unintentionally stumbled upon Raleigh that day, our encounter left a lasting impression on me. Because of him, I have gained an immense appreciation for the life experiences of those I serve. Raleigh has lived a lifetime of incredible stories, which he generously shared with me. For that, I will always be grateful. Working has taught me many practical skills, but I have learned much more than how to be a server. These hilarious, sweet people have taught me so much about life simply by sharing theirs with me. Dorothy and Raleigh are merely two examples of the characters I have grown to admire at Madrona Hills. With every glass of buttermilk I pour for Big John and every nightly loaded baker I serve to Billy, I gain respect for the wisdom and humor these wonderful people have brought to my life. So again, I think there's a wonderful storytelling nature here that comes through in this essay. She very clearly answers the prompt. She talks about a realization that sparked personal growth, a new understanding of both herself and others. I love the way she says, unknowingly, Dorothy has inspired me to relish in the comfort of daily intricacies rather than dwell on the boredom of sameness. The way she appreciates with gratitude that people generously share their stories with her. These are very definitely examples of personal growth and understanding of herself. So she does a beautiful job throughout of answering the prompt. I think she uses a nice, what I sometimes call kind of a hook at the beginning of the essay, where she starts out with old people love clam chowder and pickled beets. It's kind of funny. It's attention catching. It's very unlikely that that sentence is going to come up as the first part of any other essay that I read. She makes me want to read more because she draws me in with this rather unusual opening to the whole thing. And she uses a sense of humor throughout, you know, the way she talks about some of the quirks, that they all have the same name. These are things that she's saying with a little bit of a sense of humor, but there's also this very touching underlying sense of appreciation for these people. So it's a really nice balance, I think, of emotion. And again, that's what you're searching for, is a way to move the reader, a way to have an emotional response that will help me remember, oh, that's the student who wrote about, you know, being a server at the retirement center. I remember that because of that, the humor that came through and the touching nature of it. You know, I've many times heard, there are lots of rules that you hear out there in the world about what you should and shouldn't do on your essay. And one of those that I've sometimes heard, and I know why it gets said, but is that you should never write about someone else. You're writing about yourself. You want yourself to be what stands out in the essay. So I understand that as a rule. This is I think an example of an essay where she is mostly writing about other people. You know, the bulk of this essay is about these residents that she interacts with. The two largest paragraphs are about Dorothy and Raleigh. And yet my takeaways are all about this applicant and what she has learned and who she is as a person because of the way she appreciates these people. So it is very doable to write your essay primarily about someone else and still have the story be, the great takeaway be about you. So don't be afraid to have someone else be the center, as long as the way you're telling that story ends up giving us insight into who you are. There's a very real just kind of sense of familiarity in the way she's writing. And I think I said this earlier, sometimes like when someone reuses a piece of writing, it can come across as a little bit stiff or formal. And I think sometimes there is a misconception that college essays should be very, very structured and sort of formal. And I don't find those to be the essays that I remember. I love that she writes about people with their first names, and that she's giving me these very small details about who they are. The descriptiveness of the details and the familiarity with which she's talking about what she's learned and the routine of this work makes me feel very invited into the story that she's telling. It makes me feel like I'm connecting with her as a writer. And again, it's a little bit like the first one. There isn't a bunch of inaccessible words in this piece. This is not somebody who comes across as a professional writer. This is just someone who has taken time to choose good descriptive details and to put them together in a thoughtful way. This is not a level of writing that isn't available to a lot of students. It just takes care and a little bit of time. I also think what really comes through in this, again, the things about this person that comes through as she's writing about other people are her values. As she's kind of remarking on the prompt and the personal growth or the new understanding of herself, what I see are moments of gratitude and her level of observance of details and others around her, a tenderness toward both Dorothy and Raleigh, and these people that she gets to spend her time with. And all of those things give me that context that we are looking for to understand who this person is. And these are things that just don't come through in the same way in the other kind of lists that are a part of the application. So it's really fun to get to read something that allows those details to come through. Okay, so story time's over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we have about 15 minutes less, and I wanted to, if it's okay, to just open it up to questions. And maybe some have come through in the prompt. Or in the chat. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat. One question that is there in the chat: what is the prompt? I think just overall, the prompt is the question that you're asked to write about when you're writing an essay. So again, the common application gives you 6 or 7 different prompts that you can choose from. And there are things like I read for these. The prompt for one was discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself. So it's just the topic is the prompt, and there are many to choose from. Let me look and see here if there's some other things I think in the chat. Tanya, are you? Oh, let's see. Oh, okay. Now I can see what's in the chat.
Sorry, I was typing back in the chat just now, so I'll start my video.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, someone had a question about where the would this be posted? Would this recording be posted somewhere? And so I'm going to quit typing back in the chat and just answer verbally. Yeah, we'll post this on the district website. I don't know exactly on the district website where it will go. So I'm going to go ahead and, I don't mind if I have 60 some people email. I'm just going to go ahead and give my email address, and you guys can email me if you want me to just send it to anyone individually. The recorded, it'll be posted on the district website. And then my email is Tanya _Stremme. And then the other question is, would a student have to write separate essays for each college, or were you just answering that?
No, I hadn't gotten to that one before.
Okay, yeah. Would a student have to write separate essays for each college they apply to, or can they use one essay across all applications? And I know the answer, of course, but I'll let you go ahead and answer that while I'm finishing typing.
Well, it kind of depends. Generally, if you're if you're using the common application, which again is that it's just what it sounds like. It's an application form that about 1,000 different colleges use. So you can complete the common application one time, you complete it online, and you can submit it to a number of different places if they accept the common app. So intended to be very efficient, a good way for these busy seniors to use their time. So they're not actually having to write a separate essay for every single place that they're applying to. So for places on the Common App, you can reuse the same essay over and over. If you're applying to institutions that have only their own institution-specific application, then you're going to have to write an essay, most likely for that institution that might be specific to them. It's possible that what you write for, one school, you can rework for another. They might be close enough in terms of the prompt, but generally you have to make sure you're addressing the prompt for each place. So
I had the great honor of having a senior in high school this year. And so my son applied to about 9 or 10 schools and wrote, the 600 word Common App essay, and then had some supplemental essays. And I did find there was a couple that you could rework, but then, some schools are very specific about what they want you to answer a question about. And so, but often there's a lot of schools also that don't have any supplementary essays. And many, many schools just want you to send in that 600 or 650 word essay. The main one, there's a question that does it have to be a true story, or can it, could it be a made up story that's still convincing and touching? And in the Common App anyway, one of the essay prompts, they say you can just send in any essay that you've ever written ever about anything. And you can, if you wrote a really wonderful essay about some fake story that's, gives all those qualities of an essay that that were being talked about earlier, then and then that's fine. I think it's personally better if it is a story that you have to tell or an experience that you have, or but I think the person that asked the question might be a Westview student or family member or parent. I think the last name rings the bell, and you can come and we'll do a writing workshop in the fall, and we can just help you work through some ideas. And that your English language arts teacher is always a really great idea. But oftentimes kids will write an essay their junior year that's like this really awesome essay, and you can work that to 600 words and just submit that, if it's a great essay.
And I would say it is okay to be creative and write something that isn't necessarily about you. I would not make up something that you then present that seems like it's about you. There was actually a huge story in the Chronicle of Higher Ed this year about a student who sort of did that. They felt like they needed to tug at heartstrings, and so they kind of made up this whole persona that they wrote about, and it actually wasn't true, and it was very problematic for that student when it was all said and done. So you don't want to present something that seems like it's about you that isn't. If it's a creative piece where you're writing something, just a work of fiction that doesn't seem like it's about you, that's fine. That's a different kind of writing, and that's fine too.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Absolutely. Yeah. Gosh, those stories. I mean, that was just wonderful to just sit and listen to those essays. I mean, how brilliant to be able to read essays if they're all that good,
It's the best part of my job. Somebody commented to me personally that they've heard this session before, and I apologize that they've probably heard the social capital essay then, because I've used that one a lot. I just love the way it's written. I think it's so well done, and I do think people enjoy the kind of the story time piece of this. And that is a good thing to remember too, as you're reworking your essay, or as you're, seeking feedback on it, reading it aloud to someone, or maybe even better yet, having someone read it aloud to you is one of the best ways to understand how the reader will experience it. If somebody's reading it to you and they stumble over parts of it, that's a perfect thing to go back and think, okay, why did that cause them to stumble? Do I need to clean up that sentence a little bit? Hearing it read aloud is a different way of experiencing something that you've been looking at a lot. So I think that can be a very good way to go through that proofreading process.
Well, wonderful, guys. Any other questions? I mean, you're free to unmute, or you're also free to put questions in the chat. I think honestly, the first step is, Sue, is just, it's wonderful that all these people are here, just getting this proactive glance of thinking about it for the future. So just the fact that you guys are here right now is you're 500 steps ahead of the kids who will be like, oh no, it's November. I guess maybe I should apply to college. How do I do that? What do I do? So
Oh.
Here we are. That's great.
Yeah,
Let's ask-
I agree. It's so important to start early. And, the common application itself, Tanya, I'm sure you make this, apparent to people, but the Common App opens every year on August 1st.
Yes.
And I tell people, if you can use the month of August, before school starts here in Oregon, you can get your entire application done, and you are so far ahead of the game in terms of those students who then, once that busy senior year gets started, it only gets busier. And the stress of, rigorous courses and sports and all of the things that students are involved in, once that takes off, it's really hard to prioritize this process, and it becomes a burden. Whereas if you're doing it at a time that's a little less encumbered, if you're doing it in summer, it can actually be a really self-reflective kind of rewarding thing to complete your application and think about all that you've accomplished and do this great piece of writing. And, it can actually be a really rewarding thing. So if you can use August, the whole family's happier. Everybody feels better.
Yeah, August 1st, definitely, create your account, get it started. I actually recently found out you can create your account on Common App before then too. So you can recreate the account, get it all ready to go, and then you can start the application August 1st. So someone asked if there's any summer essay writing courses that we know of. There's probably a lot of places like through Sylvan Learning Center, Huntington Learning Center, all those places that charge you a ton of money. Yes.
There's a guy on, gosh, you might be able to find him on LinkedIn, who's like the essay writing guy, I think is what he calls him.
Eric Lahoy, or that
Delahoy. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think he does some things. I think they're mostly virtual. I don't know if he does anything in person. He's actually in Helena right now. But I think he does some.
And someone says Khan Academy may have some, yes. So yeah, good point. I mean, honestly, you can get a lot of this free online on YouTube, to be completely blunt. I mean, you can literally YouTube how to write a good college essay and just get some tips over the summer. I know at Westview High School, we'll have some writing workshops in the fall, just to have kids come in, work on their essay. We'll give them some tips, things like that. And I think any college and career center would do that if you ask. There is, I believe Jesuit High School does have one, and they do open that up to some outside students if it's not too late, if they're not already filled up. Okay. Okay. 2.5 more minutes for questions if we want to finish or end on time. And I did put my email in the chat. Not that I want, 500 million questions, but I put that in there just for people, if anyone wants me to just individually send them the link. But the link, like Ann Voorhees said in there, the link will be posted on the district website in a couple of days. So just be on the lookout there. Yeah.
I'm putting my information in the chat too.
Oh.
I've sometimes had people after I do a workshop like this say, can you help me do my essay? Can you help me write it? And I can't do that because it's a conflict of interest if you are going to apply to Willamette. But I can absolutely answer questions about the essay or other parts of the application. You have great support in your schools, obviously through your counselors who are here. But sometimes people want a question answered from the perspective of the college side. And I'm really happy to do that. Again, does not have to be about Willamette at all, just a general question. You can send me an email. I'm happy to help.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Any final questions before? Let's see. I do not see. Don't forget, everybody, thank you so much. Thanks for saying thank you. Next Wednesday night, same time, same place, on Zoom. There's a link on the district website. There is more sessions available that we'll be doing. And next week is we'll do a pre-session reading your transcript from 5:30 to 6, and then from 6 to 7, how college decisions are made. And then from 7 till 8 is the financial aid basics. Financial aid can be, if you've never done the financial aid piece before, it can be a little overwhelming. Once you've gone through it the first time, then it's like, oh, gosh, I wish I would have known. You don't know until you do it. And so I think any proactive information that you can get would be good. So next Wednesday night, June 1st, same time, same place. Thank you.